Welcome into Texans Today, presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and we've got a boatload of Texans news on tap for you today. We have multiple signings from this past weekend and today. Also, some Texans injury updates, some trade rumors from a Texans insider, plus some NFL news that you'll want to stick around to the end of today's show because Texans fans, Nick Caserio probably made the best deal of the century, and it keeps on showing. Probably know what I'm talking about, but we'll discuss at the very end of today's program. Before we get going, reminder, tomorrow, rivalry jerseys drop. And the Texans, they have been laying those breadcrumbs around trying to get us all hyped. These were all the players' reactions to the new rivalry jerseys. And, we've seen the internet sleuths looking at, different guys' shades, different guys, whatever they have on their shirts, seeing if there's any reflection of the jersey. I think we have a pretty good idea. It's going to be a white jersey with that, H-Town blue, maybe some red kind of in there as well. But I'm just so pumped for those rivalry jerseys to come out tomorrow. They have been letting us know it's going to be the whiteout jerseys. It's going to be with that H-Town blue, maybe some aspects of red here and there. But I'm telling you this, they're probably going to be sold out within the first day or two. I'm so pumped about these jerseys. I'm ready to try and get myself one as well. I think everybody should go out and try to get themselves one. But I'll also be dropping a shirt with the new H-Town rivalry. So stick around for tomorrow because I'll be dropping that shirt tomorrow. And I promise you, if you don't get the jersey, you'll want to get that as well. And if you're pumped about these new jerseys, go down, hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video, because I know Texans fans are pumped to see the brand new jerseys. I know Texans fans are pumped for this dang season. So if you haven't already, go down, hit that thumbs up icon, and let's get into today's show with the news around the Texans. Multiple signings over the past 48 hours. Deuce Vaughn, the former Cowboys running back, was signed to the Texans to add more depth. There's a ton of injuries in that running back room. Noah Whittington went down with injury in that second preseason game. Jaward Jordan hasn't practiced in a couple of weeks. And obviously, we have our guys at the top. We have David Montgomery, Woody Marks, but we need some guys to kind of fill out, especially for this third preseason game. That's where Deuce Vaughn comes in, the 5'6", 176-pound running back. He was a star at Kansas State, and our Cowboys host here, Tom Downey, messaged me, please take care of our small king. So hopefully he'll be able to, give us something to cheer about in that third preseason game up against the Panthers. A bigger signing, and this one is actually the signing that I think might have the best chance to possibly make the team. George Odum. There's been a couple injuries to the secondary. Colin Wright has a soft tissue injury. Jamarcus Ingram suffered a shoulder injury, so they're adding more depth into the secondary. He's a former Pro Bowler in terms of being a special teams guy, so, Frank Ross loves those guys. Possibly somebody who can sneak on to the back end of the roster, but he was added to the Texans as well as Caleb Johnson, linebacker who played with the Miami Dolphins this past year, has bounced around from team to team, played at Houston Christian University. So, coming back home to his kind of backyard a little bit there. But another guy to add depth with Jake Hansen being injured, Wade Woodaz was injured, and a surprise cut of a player that was injured. The Texans traded for him earlier this offseason. Marte Mapu was just cut from the roster right before I started filming. That is a big one. The Texans, like I said, they traded a 6th-round pick for him this offseason, and now he hits waivers along with Jha'Quan Jackson, Juwan Winfree, and Casey Ossai. And then we all obviously know the news of Jayden Higgins hitting IR. So definitely some roster moves being had, and I honestly don't think the Texans are done making some, roster moves here and there, tinkering with their final 53-man and seeing who they're going to keep and who they're going to try to keep around on this practice squad. You tell me, though, are there more moves coming? Will the Texans make more moves before roster cutdown day? Give me a yes, give me a no. I think it's very much possible, and coming up here in just a little bit, I'll tell you about an insider that thinks the Texans will make a trade before 53-man roster cutdown day. Reminder, that is next Sunday. Me, my guy, producer Brian, we will be here in studio to give you all of the roster cuts, the final 53-man roster for your Houston Texans. But let me know, do you think there will be more moves made by your Houston Texans? While you're down there, you can get started with our friends over at Prize Picks, the sponsor of today's program. They are America's #1 sports picks app for good reason. there's no better place to get the football season started than with our friends over at Prize Picks. Because do you like watching sports? Do you like winning cash? Well, if you like both those things, then you will love our friends over at Prize Picks. It's super simple, very user-friendly to use on the mobile app. This is a lineup that I put in, and you can actually follow all my lineups on the social feeds feature, Jeremy_Chugs, and you can copy all my lineups. This one is a season-long projection that I have. It is a 4-pick power play, $15 to pay $150. I'm going the less on Trevor Lawrence rush yards. Then I'm going the more on Stroud passing touchdowns, the more on Montgomery rush yards, and the more on Will Anderson sacks. Like I said, you can copy my lineup or go ahead and make your own. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. New users, listen up. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. Prize Picks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join, lock in, and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. All right, let's talk about some more injury news for the Houston Texans as linebacker Jake Hansen, his ankle not been practicing, but he's been making progress. I told you about this last week. Aaron Wilson posted, Jake Hansen has been, working out on the side. He's at least been able to, put on the cleats, get out there and do some light workouts. So that's really good compared to what we thought his injury was going to be when it happened. We thought it was probably going to be a season-ending injury, and now it looks like, he'll probably be placed on short-term IR, miss the first 4 weeks of the season, and then be available to come and help this Houston Texans defense. Also, another injury was Dominique Robinson. He was sitting out of practice today as well with an injury. You know who's back, though? British Brooks is back to practice after that broken hand, just in time to possibly make the 53-man roster, right? The Texans, we talked about it earlier, the running back room is thinning out very quickly. He was able to come back to practice today. Jaward Jordan not able to come back to practice, though. He is still sitting out with that hip flexor, which makes me think, is he going to be put on short-term IR? And maybe the Texans make another running back signing, because I don't know if Deuce Vaughn was a guy that was signed to make the 53-man roster, but if Whittington is out, if Jaward Jordan is out, so your third running back is going to be British Brooks and then Owen Wright. Like, I don't think that's the move for your Houston Texans. Still not practicing as well is Tank Dell. He was not out there at practice today. The last practice before joint practices with the Panthers and then that preseason game on Friday. So this was the last team practice before roster cutdown day without any other teams there. And I highly doubt Tank Dell is going to be out there for team joint practices up against the Panthers. I would like to see him out there, but with how they're being so cautious with his injury, it's making me think more and more that he will be on short-term IR to start the season, especially with the Texans. They signed 2 receivers after the Jayden Higgins injury. They signed Zay Jones and Sterling Shepard. So where does that leave Tank Dell, right? Like, I think he's going to be somebody who we'll have to see how they manage his injury and if he'll be ready for week 1. Another guy who is very much up in the air, I think he will definitely be on short-term IR to start the season, if not being cut outright, is Brevin Jordan. He is still missing practice, still have not been able to see him since the start of training camp, right? And I think it just sucks because that knee injury has really taken away from him. He was looking good in minicamp OTAs. Then once training camp rolled around, he's been having knee soreness, so hasn't been able to practice. And I do wonder if that spells the end for his NFL career. Really something that sucks, because I believed in Brevin Jordan and thought that he could make an impact for this Texans team. And, if it wasn't for injury, I thought he would have. But we'll have to see how the Texans manage his injury. Now, let's transition over to some trade rumors for your Houston Texans, because my guy Aaron Wilson was talking this past weekend on one of his videos on his YouTube channel, and he mentioned the Texans being very interested in dealing one of their defensive ends. After the signing of Jadeveon Clowney, the Texans, they feel very confident with their defensive end, their defensive line room. And he mentioned the 49ers as being a team that would be very interested in one of these Texans backup defensive linemen. Dominique Robinson, who I just mentioned, was injured, so maybe that's not the play for the Texans to try and look at him as a trade candidate, because I don't know if a team wants to trade for somebody who's injured. But Dylan Horton, Solomon Byrd. has been absolutely showing out in the preseason so far, has been looking really good in training camp. I do wonder if they'd be willing to get a decent pick for Solomon Byrd from a team like the 49ers. And I actually put the 49ers depth chart beneath everything else. I put it beneath the Texans depth charts because I do think the 49ers are a team that probably needs some help in that defensive line room, because when you look at it, they have been oft injured. And, Mykel Williams was a former early round draft pick. He's been injured. Nick Bosa, obviously, dealing with a ton of injuries on his own. And behind that, you have guys like Keon White, Romello Height, the rookie from Texas Tech, is somebody who they like, but also has been dealing on and off with injuries as well. Like the 49ers, they are the most injury-plagued team in the NFL. Maybe it's a substation, maybe it's not. But, the defensive line, they have taken a lot of hits. And if you're looking at, the Texans defensive line, they've looked awesome during the preseason and during this training camp period. So if the Texans are going to cut one of these guys anyways and they hit waivers, maybe the 49ers would be interested in sending a late round draft pick instead of just, letting this guy hit waivers. Because it kind of works for both teams, right? For the Texans, you get a draft pick for a guy that you were going to cut anyways. Like, he wasn't going to make your 53-man roster, whether that's Dylan Horton or that's Solomon Byrd. And the other team, like the 49ers, they ensure that guy doesn't hit waivers, right? Because once you cut a guy and he hits waivers, it goes down to the waiver wire in that order. So if other teams are interested in Solomon Byrd or Dylan Horton, then, the 49ers might say, okay, well, we'd rather just know that we can have this guy rather than chance it and some other team, claim him off of waivers that's higher on the order, because how it works is basically it's ordered based on, the draft position and stuff like that. And if you're higher in the draft position, then you get first dibs on the waiver wire. And if other teams are interested in those guys, then the 49ers might not get a shot to add them to their roster. So that makes sense for them to go ahead and trade for the Texans, just like the Texans did with Marte Mapu. They traded a 6th-round pick for him. Maybe they get a 6th-round pick back for one of these defensive ends. We have some NFL news that I wanted to discuss on today's show. Before we do, though, make sure to check out our shop. I said it at the top of the show. We're going to be releasing a t-shirt with the new rivalry jerseys that the Texans are dropping tomorrow. So if you want to save this link for tomorrow and check out all of our merch, it's chatsports.com/HOU shop. I'll go ahead and put that link down in the comments and description of today's show. We already have a bunch of dope t-shirts that are out. We have the tank top. I've been wearing that all week long, with it being like 125 degrees outside, it feels like. We also have our bestseller, the Will Anderson Terminator H-Town shirts. We also have our Swarm Patrol t-shirts as well. So all of our shirts are available right now, chatsports.com/HOU shop. And stay tuned, because we have a brand new shirt dropping with the H-Town rivalry jerseys tomorrow. You won't want to miss it. Now, I was talking with my guy, producer Brian, before the show, and I was like, I got to hit this. And he was like, really? Like, we got to go back to Deshaun Watson? Yes, we got to go back to Deshaun Watson, because this makes me appreciate Nick Caserio just a little bit more on a Monday morning. The Cleveland Browns have named Deshaun Watson as their starting quarterback in Week 1. And I will say, a little upset, because I think whoever starts the year for Cleveland, they're not going to make it to Week 10 whenever the Texans play the Browns. And I was really hoping that Deshaun Watson would be the starter when the Texans played them in Week 10. But this is just so controversial on so many levels, because Watson has not looked good. He, since being traded to the Browns, I believe has started 19 games for Cleveland. And on top of that, he's being booed by their fan base. Like, him and the fans, they're not like that whatsoever. The fans in Cleveland do not like Deshaun Watson, and not to mince words, but they really wish that he was cut from their team. And I don't think there's any hard feelings between them and Deshaun Watson in terms of if he was just to get the boot outright. Like, I think Browns fans are tired of Deshaun Watson. They are upset that he is still the guy in Cleveland. And, yeah, if you're a Browns fan, you are probably very upset with your organization and the fact that you have a young guy in Shedeur Sanders, and, maybe at least get to see what he has in the tank before going into next offseason and probably drafting a quarterback in the top 5. Because if we're being honest, the Browns, come on, they traded the one guy who was actually good on their roster in Myles Garrett. And now you're turning to a guy in Deshaun Watson who hasn't been good in a very long time, since 2020. It's just absolutely crazy. And on top of that, I mean, just all the news coming out of Ohio today. Also, the Browns have officially waived tight end Jha'Quan Wright. And you're probably wondering, well, Jeremy, what does that have anything to do with anything? If you're a college football fan like me and my guy, producer Brian, this is an absolute travesty because he's somebody who entered the NFL, went as a UDFA, went throughout all of training camp, has gotten cut, and now is going to return to college football to play for LSU. And, of course, who else but Lane Kiffin? Who else but Lane Kiffin would go and really try to seek out these former NFL players to come back to college football? Absolutely insane. If you're a college football fan, let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comment section, because I think it's just absolutely ludicrous the fact that some of these guys are able to go to the NFL and then return to college. Like, come on. Like, at this point, we just need to, really, I guess, prop up the UFL, the XFL, whatever, because it's not college football anymore. None of these guys are going for degrees. Like, they're not going back to college for anything. Not saying that, college athletes in general are there to study. There's been plenty of football players who said, I'm here to major in football. But at the end of the day, like, what are we doing having guys who are already in the NFL or like 24, 25, 26, 27 years old playing in college football, right? Like, this sport was meant for 18 to 24-year-olds, not guys who are already in the NFL to come back down. And on top of that, also, speaking of all the news in Ohio, 49ers owner Jed York, just go ahead and look that up. Just go ahead and look that up as well. A lot of random NFL news today, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it at the end of today's video. All right, that's all I have for you. Make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. You can also follow me on social media everywhere at Jeremy Chugs on X, IG, TikTok, and like I said, stay tuned tomorrow for our brand new t-shirts on our merch shop here. I'm pumped to see those brand new rivalry jerseys, like I know a lot of you are as well.